Do you want to make the best Detroit-style pizza in your own home kitchen, but just don't know where to start? In this video, we're going to show you step-by-step how to make a Motor City masterpiece that you can share with your friends and family that'll wow them. I reveal many tips and tricks in this video, and it's packed with valuable information, all in an effort to help you serve the best Detroit-style pizza out of your own home kitchen. Are you ready? Let's go. My name is Sean Randazzo, and I've been making authentic Detroit-style pizza since 1995. The last 10 years, I've been on a mission to get Detroit-style pizza on the map. And along that journey, I found myself in kitchens all around the world, home and commercial. I encourage you, subscribe, hit the little bell to get notifications. We have a lot of great videos coming. And I'm your host of Detroit Style Pizza Channel, DSPC TV. There are a few main things you need to make amazing Detroit style pizza at home.
For best results, I recommend using a nice little kitchen mixer. In this video, we'll be using a 6-quart KitchenAid mixer. You can find the information and link to one of these in the description. Next, you'll need something to bake your Detroit-style pizza in. We recommend a seasoned steel Detroit-style pizza pan. You can find information and a link to these in the description below. Before you bake in your seasoned steel pan, you'll want to make sure you oil the inside using a brush or a paper towel. A brush that does not lose bristles is the best option. You just want a thin coat of oil. Unless it's a brand new pan, you might want to give it a little thicker coat. You want to make sure that every part of the inside of the pan is covered in oil. Okay, let's go right into making some dough. In this video, we're going to be using Detroit Style Pizza Company's residential Detroit Style Pizza dough mix. This is an excellent recipe that not only is perfect for Detroit Style pizza, but you can make so many other recipes with it. You can find the link to this mix in the description. If you want to do your own from scratch recipe, we also have another video on YouTube. You can find the link below to at home from scratch Detroit style pizza recipe. You can also find below a printable version of that recipe as well. We're going to follow the easy directions on the back of this package. First, we add 2 cups of water that's temped at 85 degrees to the mixing bowl. Next, we'll add the entire dough mix to the mixing bowl. Once you have the water and the dough mix in the bowl, raise the bowl and put it on a slow setting. We recommend putting it on 1 or 2. This is just to really incorporate all the ingredients so that it doesn't make a mess when we turn it on a higher speed. You'll want to mix it on this slow speed for approximately a minute. Once all the ingredients have incorporated together, we can turn it to a higher speed. I recommend putting it on a 5 or a 6 speed. You'll want to mix at a medium to higher speed to build the gluten structure in the dough. This may take about 3 to 4 minutes. Once it starts climbing a little bit up the hook and cleaning the bowl, you know the dough is going to be turning out great. After 3 minutes, go ahead and check your dough to see if it's done. What you're really looking for is an elasticity. That means the gluten structure is built in the dough enough to proceed to the next step. But if it pulls apart like this, it's definitely not done yet. So do not try to attempt. It will affect the texture of your final product. Put it back on for about 30 seconds and check it again. This is what you're going to want your dough to look like when it's done. You'll want to be able to pull it up about 6 inches. It may still rip a little bit, but it'll have much silkier feel to it, and it'll have a whole lot more elasticity without ripping. You should be able to pull it above the bowl and shake it back and forth without it ripping. At this point, if this is how your dough looks, let's move on to the next step. So if you're having issues or just have a question about anything, please leave it in the comments and we will respond. If you have not already subscribed, please do so and hit the little bell for notifications. We'll be posting a bunch of great videos with this dough recipe as well. Also, let us know the first time you ever heard of Detroit style pizza in the comments. Okay, now that your dough's done, put some oil into a bowl. You can use canola, vegetable oil, or even olive oil. We do recommend an oil that does have a higher fat content like canola. This dough is super hydrated, so it is sticky. Go ahead and put some oil on your hands and take the dough out of the mixing bowl and place it on a working surface. And coat the outside of the dough with the oil. Now you'll want to divide the dough into some dough balls. The mix we're using makes 4 small 8x10 Detroit style pizzas or 2 large 10x14 Detroit style pizzas. We're going to go ahead and divide this up into dough balls, weighing about 10 ounces each. We recommend using 9.5 to 10 ounces for your 8x10 seasoned steel Detroit style pizza pan, or if you're doing a large 10x14, we recommend using around 18 ounces of dough. Once you have your dough balls balled up, go ahead and coat them with a thin coat of oil. Now, you can put them in the fridge covered for a 24 to 48 hour cold fermentation. This will increase the flavor and also improve the texture of the inside of the pizza. In this video, we're going to go ahead and use the fresh dough the same day. For any extra dough you don't plan using right away, you can also store in the freezer for later use. Okay, the dough you'll be using today, make sure it is balled up, covered with oil, and in a container covered. Let it sit at room temperature for at least 1 hour. It's very important you let this dough ball rest for at least 1 hour at room temperature before you start pressing out in the pan. After your dough balls have rested, it should have a really smooth consistency to the dough. It also should have increased in size. Now it's time to place the dough ball into your oiled, seasoned steel pan. When placing the dough into the pan, kind of pull it and stretch it into a rectangular shape. You can also pull out the corners a little bit, but be gentle. Initially, you'll just want to place it in there kind of as the shape of the pan and press it no more than 5 to 10 presses. Cover it, and then you're going to let it rest for another 15 minutes. We recommend using a Detroit-style pizza plastic pan lid to cover your pizzas. It makes for easy stacking and holds the heat inside the pan to help for the proofing of the dough. If you don't have the lids, use saran wrap to cover the pans. There is a link in the description below to the Detroit-style pizza pan lids. Once your dough has rested at room temperature covered in your pan for 15 minutes, now it's time to fully press it out. Like I mentioned earlier, we don't want to work the dough too much. The idea is getting it consistently even throughout the whole pan with the least amount of touches. Get a little oil on your hands and on the dough. First, you can pull out the corners lightly and kind of drop them in the corner. Then you can start pressing out. I like to start in the middle to build a nice foundation and a nice guide to go and use for the entire pressing out of the rest of the dough. Now, if it starts to pull back from the corners and it keeps on retracting, then simply just cover it back up and let it rest another 5 or 10 minutes. Come back after it has relaxed another 5 or 10 minutes and you should easily be able to finish pressing it out. Air bubbles in your dough, that's great. That means the yeast is active and producing carbon dioxide, which in turn is going to create an amazing finished crust. When doing your final press, you'll want to avoid making thin spots in the dough or building it up too much on the sides or in other areas. Like I said earlier, the main goal is to, with the least amount of touches of your hand, get it consistently pressed out throughout the entire pan. If you're still having issues or problems getting the corners to stay, you can kind of hold the corner with your thumb lightly while you begin to press the outside of the dough. As long as they're staying in place, that's good. Try not to gouge the dough with your thumbs when holding the corners in though. Once you have the dough consistently even throughout the entire pan, now it's time to recover, and this is where the magic happens. You're gonna let the dough proof in your pan at room temperature for about 2 hours. You'll want the dough to proof until it's risen approximately about a third way up the pan. If it's winter or a little cooler in your house, you may need to let it proof in the pan for up to 3 hours or even a little bit more. Really what you're looking for is to see it rise a third way up the pan at minimum. Now for the sauce, a real good Detroit style pizza sauce is something that complements the entire pizza, not overpowers it. So it's simple and has a natural tomato taste which balances the whole pizza. We're gonna start with a ground or crushed tomato product. Here we're using a 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes. You can also use whole ground tomatoes in an emulsifier or blender for the sauce base. Put the crushed tomatoes in a small saucepan on low heat. Now add 2 pinches of garlic powder, 3 pinches of dry oregano, 3 pinches of dry basil, 1 pinch of ground pepper, and 3 pinches of salt. You can add whatever you would like into this sauce recipe. Some people like to add oil, some people like to add Parmesan cheese, some people add rosemary or thyme. There's all kinds of things you can do to give it your own unique flavor or own unique spin. This is our basic Detroit style pizza sauce recipe that you can customize however you would like. Once you have all the ingredients in the saucepan, give it a good stir. You're gonna continue to let the sauce simmer on a low setting for about 45 minutes, stirring occasionally and making sure to keep it covered. Now let's get into the cheese and other toppings. For the cheese, we use low moisture mozzarella and brick cheese blend. It is 2 parts low moisture mozzarella to 1 part brick cheese. That's what we're using in this video, but there are all kinds of different cheese blends you can use. That's what's used traditionally with this style, brick cheese. You can find a link to this cheese in the description as well. One of my favorite Detroit style pizza cheese blends would be a 50% low moisture mozzarella, 25% brick cheese, and 25% Monterey Jack. Now on to your toppings. In this video, we're gonna make something basic and simple. We're just using pepperoni and mild pepper rings. The pepperoni goes directly on the dough, so we recommend using a thicker sliced pepperoni. But of course, if you're using a natural casing pepperoni, the ones that cup and char on top of the pizza, you'll wanna make sure that you put them directly on top of the pizza, not on the dough. After your sauce has simmered for about 45 minutes, you can go ahead and turn the heat off. Let it sit there still after giving it another stir, because the longer the sauce sits, the better all the ingredients mend together. Alright, our Detroit style pizza dough has been proofing in the pan now, covered at room temperature for approximately 2 hours. It's approaching about 1/3 way up the pan, and that's where we want it. So now that our dough is ready, let's start making some pizzas. Before we start making the pizzas, let's go ahead and get the oven preheated. Preheat your oven to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. As you can see, our dough is looking beautiful. It looks light and fluffy, it's risen about 1/3 way up the pan, and we're ready to go. First, we're gonna sprinkle a little dry oregano directly on the dough. Next, we're gonna place our pepperoni directly on the dough. With the pepperoni, the cheese, and other toppings, and the way we press it out, I like to stick to the common theme of just consistently even throughout the pan. We don't want to pile up anything against the edge of the pan, but looking at the pizza and how we're going to cut it in slices, I like to just have a consistent layer of everything. So for the pepperoni on a large 10x14 pan, we're going to put 4 pepperonis by 6, just to consistently cover the whole dough. Traditionally, pepperoni's always been put directly on the dough, then cheese, then other toppings, then sauce. That's how it's coined the phrase an upside down pizza and red top. Now let's take our cheese blend and lightly just cover the entire pizza. Now, we normally recommend about 12 or 13 ounces of cheese on a 10x14 large and approximately 6 to 7 on a 8x10 small pan. After your dough is fully proofed, it's very fragile and you don't want to press it back down. That'll ruin the amazing texture you're about to experience once it's done. Same thing when applying the cheese. Don't take the whole bowl and just dump it in the center. The weight of the cheese will just make the whole dough collapse, and you don't want that. So light-handedly take the cheese and consistently spread it throughout the whole pan. Now place your remaining toppings on top of the cheese. You can put all kinds of vegetables or meats on top of this pizza and it will turn out fantastic. Once you've topped your pizza, now it's time to bake it. As long as your oven's preheated, we're gonna go ahead and set the pizza on the center rack. Now set your timer for 15 minutes. We're gonna want this pizza to bake at 450 degrees Fahrenheit for approximately 15 minutes. Once your pizzas are baking, go ahead and put your sauce back on a simmer to heat up. Once your timer goes off and your pizzas have baked for 15 minutes, you should start to see some really good color on the cheese. Using pan grippers or an oven mitt, hold the pan. The pan grippers can be found in the description below as well. Now you're gonna remove the pizza from the pan. Using your spatula and your grippers, kind of go around the edge of the pizza to loosen up the cheese that's against the pan. Once you've loosened the pizza up, it'll slide right out of the pan. You can place it on a cutting board or a baking sheet. Now you're ready to cut, serve, and enjoy. I know this was a lengthy video, but if you stuck to the end, I know you're hard at work creating your own Motor City masterpiece in your own home kitchen. I'd love to hear how your pizza turned out in the comments below. Also, if you have any questions about making a Detroit style pizza at home, please comment below. I look really forward to hearing from some of you guys and seeing some amazing masterpieces coming out of your home kitchen. I'm sure your friends and family are going to be super happy once they enjoy the true authentic taste of a Motor City Detroit style pizza.